at 35,000 feet, surrounded by flak, with enemy fighters closing in. The pilot protecting your life was someone his own country didn't fully trust to fight. And yet, he kept you alive. In January 1945, a short article appeared in a Chicago newspaper. It barely took up space, but inside it was the story of a fighter pilot who had already flown 70 combat missions over Europe. His name was Lieutenant Felix Kirkpatrick Jr. Kirkpatrick was part of the 332nd Fighter Group, one of the first all-black fighter units in the U.S. Army Air Forces. They trained separately, flew separately, and were often doubted. Initially, many believed they wouldn't perform in combat. However, the war would prove otherwise. The missions started from bases in southern Italy, engines roaring, aircraft climbing slowly into thin air. Below them, the Mediterranean Sea, and ahead, occupied Europe. Targets stretched across the continent: Romania, Germany, Austria, Hungary, places where the sky itself fought back. Over Budapest, one of the most heavily defended targets in the war, Kirkpatrick engaged enemy fighters directly. By the end of his missions, he had destroyed 9 aircraft and shot down 1 in combat. At altitude, nothing was forgiving. Fuel was limited. Oxygen ran thin. Every movement mattered. Bombers flew straight and steady, easy targets for the German Luftwaffe. And that's where pilots like Kirkpatrick came in. Above the bombers, beside the bombers, always watching. German fighters circled, waiting for weakness, especially from units they believed weren't ready. They were wrong. After the missions, something unexpected happened. White bomber crews, many from the segregated American South, began to understand who had been protecting them. Kirkpatrick described it simply. When they landed alive, they would find him, and sometimes they would grab him and hold on tightly. Men who, on the ground, might never have stood beside him, now holding on to him like their lives depended on it, because they had. Kirkpatrick put it this way: at an altitude of 35,000 feet, with flak bursting around you and Focke-Wulfs snapping at your heels, race prejudice vanishes. But what disappeared in the sky didn't disappear on the ground. Pilots in his unit often had to complete around 70 missions before being rotated. White pilots were rotated after about 50. They were asked to do more with less for the same country. Still they flew. Still they fought. Still they protected the men beside them. For a few hours in the sky, prejudice disappeared. The tragedy is how quickly it returned on the ground. If you want to discover more stories like this about overlooked soldiers of World War II, subscribe and help keep their history alive.